What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to review SpongeBob SquarePants, the Cosmic Shake. I want to thank THQ, obviously, for giving me a review code early, and I really, really like this game. I do. This is really a sequel to Battle for Bikini Bottom, right? If you just slap the title Battle for Bikini Bottom 2 onto this game, it would kind of work, right? This game is everything that you know and maybe love, right? I assume maybe you like Battle for Bikini Bottom, because this game is very much in line with it. With that being said, this game is a blast. This game is honestly a blast. I would say the biggest negative, I mean, look at me, I'm starting with the negatives first, but really, there's only one, and it's the performance. The game, I don't think, performs all that well. I was playing on my PS5, but it's the PS4 code, right? It's actually on last-gen consoles. So loading was pretty bad. There were times where I thought the game had froze on me multiple times. There's times where the cutscenes kind of like clip into each other, where it's not seamless from one thing to the next, right? So I would say it's a little quality of life things like that. Now, honestly, a patch. You just need a patch to fix those issues, and I think, honestly, you'd be kind of golden after that. Besides the... And I would say it's the jumping in between things, right? It's the Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart jumps. That's where the game has its issues. Honestly, in terms of just moving around the world, jumping, platforming, fighting enemies, all that stuff, game runs really well. So I'm not even saying like the game is just one total disaster. It needs a patch to work. It's some of the loading stuff. It's some of the, the in-between going from one scene to the next. Overall, the game actually does run rather fine. And that ends our negative portion, of the video. That ends the negative part of my review, because I honestly don't think there's anything else I can nitpick or talk about all that negatively about the game. The game is a lot of fun. I was playing this with my daughter, so we would go back and forth. There is co-op. We actually just played it single player. So I would play. I'd say, hey, we're in an open area. Do you want to play? And, she would jump around and have fun. She really liked it. This is a game that I honestly think works for just about anybody. There are some very classic lines. There's some classic characters in this game that I think work really well. I was laughing, like literally laughing out loud. I thought there was some very, very clever written dialogue, and I don't watch modern-day SpongeBob. I don't know if the show's kind of gone down or not. But, I remember how I think very clever the show was written back in the day, right? When I was a kid, and even watching it now, it's like, wow, this show's very smart. This show really knows what it's doing. And I think the game, honestly, it feels like the show. And I'll get into this in a second. The game is basically split up into episodes, right? So you're in a hub world, which is Bikini Bottom itself, and it's pretty small, right? There are collectibles, there's people to talk to, but generally you're there to talk to a couple people and then go into portals, and the portals will take you to other worlds, right? So it's a Ratchet and Clank kind of situation. You go into the other worlds, and they're themed. And every theme really is quite in line with an episode. There is a Princess Pearl, so it's the medieval themed, and it really is. It's not the medieval episode retold. None of these episodes actually are straight up ripping off episodes from the show and just putting it as a game. That's not what it is. It's taking themes. It's taking iconic characters. It's taking lines. Like I said before, there's some very, there's the one-liners that you remember from some of the best era, right? The best era of SpongeBob. You hear that throughout the entire game, and they cleverly put it throughout it. So I'd say every world is really well done. They're all very diverse. You'll be doing different things in each one. There are some that are also very, very cool. There's one that's like a Halloween theme, so it's like trick-or-treating. I think it's incredibly creative. They did a good job, not just making them look different, but you'll be doing different things. There's certain mechanics that obviously they'll add as the game goes, and you kind of add it to each level. So each level is a little bit planned out differently, right? And I think they did a really fantastic job of differentiating each level. I would actually say the earlier levels are the longer ones. I thought this game was going to be, based off of the first half, I thought this game was going to be almost gigantic, like massive. It took me around 10 hours. That was about my average. And again, based off the first couple levels, and I guess, if you're, again, maybe nitpicking, those are some smaller issues. The cooler levels, I'd argue, are actually the second half levels, although, again, they're all actually really good. The ones I prefer are second half. There are shorter ones. There are some levels in this game that will take you maybe 55 minutes to go through, and some of the earlier levels will take you almost 2 hours. So there's a little bit, as the game goes on, as it's telling its story, some of the levels kind of shrink in size, but they're actually more creative. They're cooler overall. The story in this game is actually extremely good. You can see it coming. Like everything that happens in this game, you can see it coming because it's a show, right? You know what's going on. I don't want to, I guess, spoil it. I assume you'll figure it out within the first, say, hour of the game, what's truly going on and all that stuff. But I actually thought the story was really good, even knowing where it was going. I thought all the characters did great. You know, that's another thing. The cast in this game, I mean, it's the cast of SpongeBob. It's incredible. SpongeBob is awesome. Hearing Squidward and Patrick. And, I mean, I would argue, I tried to listen to as much, dialogue in this game as possible. Nobody phoned it in, and that can happen. Now, I think because maybe they're more voice actors, right? They're kind of trained in the very setting of going into a booth, a room with nobody around and just talking. They're used to that with the show. So I think you won't get phoned in performances. And from everything that the Flying Dutchman, even the guy who plays the Flying Dutchman, I believe he's like 90 years old and he's still kicking, and I love him and I hope he stays around a long time. He does so well. Like you can almost tell he's very much enjoying it. Like I could see him smiling and kind of laughing around with it as he's recording it. So nobody phones it in. This is not a quick paycheck for these people and they come in and they record their SpongeBob lines. This is well done. Again, the game is written like a SpongeBob show quality. It's good. It's got, I don't know how much depth you would say, but it's got some jokes that actually maybe flew over my daughter's head, but I got it. It has references that my daughter would point out, or I would point out. I'd say, oh my God, remember that episode where they did this? Oh, they just showed that, or they just referenced it. That's throughout this entire game. It's a really enjoyable game. Then from the game itself, it's Battle for Bikini Bottom. You're jumping, you're spinning, you're attacking. I like the new abilities, right? So they kind of build on SpongeBob. Every so often, he can kind of do a new thing, and that's basically the crux of the game. But the platforming is pretty fun. I think it's a little too difficult. I mean, my daughter's about to turn 9. She can do some of it. She couldn't do other stuff. Getting from point A to point B, right? The movement around is actually the harder part of it. I actually think the fighting in this game is extraordinarily easy. I mean, as you would probably imagine, right? I was having a breeze. I didn't even have to really pay attention to the fighting all that much, and I would do pretty okay. The bosses are pretty clever. They're not hard, but they're clever. They mix stuff up. I think the bosses in Battle for Bikini Bottom are better. So I would say, that era of just, game making, they really had something special there. They did not match it with this, and that's okay. I think it was decent enough, and it was just different enough, but it was also pretty easy. But the movement, the platforming sections of this game, they can get quite sophisticated. Like there's some stuff to it that I don't know how old you need to be, maybe a teenager, in order to be able to pull this stuff off. I kind of flew through it. It was a game for me that I thought was just thoroughly enjoyable. Nothing really upset me. I thought my PlayStation was frozen a couple times, right, because of the loading. But, I mean, beyond that, I was smiling the whole time. I was having fun the whole time. Nothing frustrating. Which, I mean, look, I like a challenge. I'm not saying a game having no challenge is a good thing, okay? But this game did. It didn't really have anything that's going to really make you beat yourself over the head. And it's just a fun time from start to finish. Also, it's not full price. I believe it's only $40. And one final thing, too, I like to throw this in. I talk about the remakes and kind of the plan for when you remake a game. I'm just so happy this game exists. I really genuinely mean that. When Battle for Bikini Bottom is remade, right, by the same studio, the goal when you remake a game, in my opinion, you're remaking Battle for Bikini Bottom, you're testing the waters. Is SpongeBob still popular nowadays? Answer, yes. Okay, so what do you do now? Well, you can remake the other games, and maybe they will. But you could also make a brand new game. Let's make a 2023 SpongeBob. Let's do it. And they did. And I don't really think there's a studio that could have done it besides them, because they know now, because they did the remake, they know what to do. Now, the reused assets, right, the quick turnaround, this is basically a Battle for Bikini Bottom 2, but it's called the Cosmic Shake. I'm very happy with it. I like that you can get your feet wet with doing a remake of an old game and then pivot and say, well, let's make a new one. Let's not disrespect or do anything to the older games. Let's kind of do our own thing, but using what's so successful. Battle for Bikini Bottom is honestly probably the best one, or at least the one that has the most eyes on it, right, generally from like the fandom. So let's do a game like that, but let's make it new. And that made it more enjoyable, I would say, right? Because I'm looking out for things. I've never seen this game before. So the Easter eggs, the story is original. It's new. Like, what are they going to do? I really liked it. So I say pick it up, to be flat out honest with you. I think this game is worth it from a platformer, from just fun overall, if you got nostalgia for SpongeBob. But I think it's just overall a really solid game. This is not a game that requires you to like dumb yourself down. I think it's a fine game just all the way around, and I'm super, super happy with it. And now, what do you do after this? God, I don't know. I'll give the game a little room to breathe, I guess, and then we'll come at what's next for the studio. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.